Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. Today, I'm really excited because we have CarolAnn back. She has her own podcast with us, and she talks about grievance, loss, accepting yourself, learn how to love yourself, how to get back on track when it comes to life and losing someone that you love. And today, we're going to talk about grievance and loss and how to find that inner peace within you. And I'm really excited. Don't forget that CarolAnn has a podcast on our channel, so you can go and look at all her other episodes. They're really inspiring and have a lot of information that will help you grow and fulfill the areas in life that you feel are missing. And I just like to give a shout out to iHeartRadio and to Speaker and YouTube for sponsoring this episode. Thank you very much. And if you like this, don't forget to follow us and subscribe. All righty. Well, CarolAnn, I'm so glad you're on the show today to talk about this because I feel like a lot of people who suffer from grievance and loss, they never find that inner peace within themselves. They go through life and they hold on to the grievance and they don't move on. We always miss the people we lose, but there comes a time where some people are just beating themselves over the head. They're not moving forward in life and they're just falling apart inside and you can see it physically on the outside too.
I think a lot has to do with feeling shame about this and the fact that I didn't do enough. It's the survivor guilt. It's the guilt of could I have done more? Could I have been there to help out more? In my case, I think I had some of that guilt.
Hmm.
I brought in so much extra help to my late husband to help him heal in the hospital, more so than the hospitalists were bringing in for him. Unfortunately, it was like every day there was a new issue that was developing in his body.
Hmm.
Looking back, I can say now that I think his soul was looking for a way out. So he just manifested something new to have to deal with.
Yeah.
But yet I was right there pounding the pavement of getting my spiritual friends in, of getting teachers in, of finding the right doctor to help him to heal this. On the human side, it was fascinating to watch what can happen with someone who really wants to leave the body.
Yeah.
It's fine one day, the next day he was blind. Then the day after that, he had Bell's palsy. The day after that was he had an issue with his not his liver, his kidney. The day after that, it was a heart issue. I've never in my life encountered anything like this.
Yeah.
Yet I still walked away with, after he passed, not only being totally shocked and in awe, but the fact that I could have done more. I could have brought in another specialist. Um, his son is an ER doctor, and I just, you didn't read the forms fast enough. You didn't read his intake thoroughly. You weren't there to help support your father. You start blaming those around you, and then you start taking on the fact that I could have done more. If only, if only, if only. And
Yeah.
that's something you need to come to grips with and change your own story about.
Hmm.
It was so set in, what if I had?
Right.
Or you didn't do enough. I started blaming, and I had to open up the space and change my story around. So I felt good on the inside. I did more than anyone would have thought to do. I had people tell me, boy, you're a champion when it comes to being in a hospital setting. I want you at my side because I am. I didn't wasn't raised that way, but boy, something kicked in internally
Yeah.
where I just felt I had to do more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, though, I start watching what he manifested to get out of his body so he could leave.
Right.
A couple months later, then I come up with the realization that this was between him and God.
Yeah.
This was preset. This is something that he'd already fulfilled everything here. It was time for him to go. And, this is how I'm going out. He
Right.
couldn't talk to me in the end because he was intubated. I
Hmm.
don't know if he knew I was there. I would like to think he did.
Hmm.
Um, Literally, when I left the hospital setting, when I left the ICU room at that night, 2 seconds later, he was gone. He did not want to leave with me standing there.
Yeah. I remember when I was a caretaker to three people that I loved, and towards the end I knew he only had a couple of days left, my uncle, and I saw in his eyes that he didn't want me coming to the hospital anymore. He didn't want me, I think he appreciated it, but at the same time he didn't want me seeing him in that sense. And I could just read it. And I remember just saying goodbye to him and giving him a kiss and telling him I love you. He could barely get the words out, but he managed to whisper it. And I walked out of the room, and 3 days later he passed away. And then, the same thing when I had my aunt had passed, we had a discussion right the night before she passed. She couldn't even, they had her on an oxygen mask that covered her whole face, and she still couldn't get 100% oxygen. And they put her on FaceTime for me because I couldn't go there to see her. And she just, her last words to me were, "Thank you. And, I hope I didn't give you too much more than you could chew." And I and I said, I was like, "No, Carol, you didn't." I said, "If I didn't want to do this, I wouldn't have done it. I did it because I love you." And that night she passed. And I found when I saw people ready to go, it seems like they're on a cliff. And then as soon as they're ready to go, all of a sudden it's like a dive. And it's just like they go from A to Z in a matter of seconds. And it's just they're ready to leave, they want to leave, and then all of a sudden it's just full speed ahead and they're gone. That's what I've noticed, from the few people that I've been with that were ready to go and then they passed. It just seemed like it went like that. But when they want to go, I believe they have their journey in life. We all have our journey. When our journey is completed, then it's time to go, and whatever's next is next. But I feel like, it's when they're ready, and they're gonna go no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Nothing we can do. If it's their time, it's their time. There's not much more we can do. What we can do for ourselves, though, as I said earlier, is change that story.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to love ourselves. We have to learn how to change the words we use so the story can change. We need to be kinder to ourselves. We need to know that it's okay to have a good life while we're still here because that's all they want for us. They
Yes.
want us to be in joy and happiness and peace every day.
Yes. How were you able to change the story? How were you able to take those emotions that you were going through and change it around? Because you did everything you could, but yet you still blamed yourself and you blamed others because you were just full of anger because the person you loved was leaving and you didn't want that person to go. And no matter what you were going to do, he was going to go anyway. When he was ready, he was ready. But
Hmm.
us as humans, I think we become selfish and we want them here with us, and we'll do anything we can to try to keep them here. But once they're ready, they're gonna go. And
Right.
yeah, for you, how did you change the story around so you wouldn't feel that guilt, so you wouldn't have that inner anger? Why did you leave me? Why are you gone? Why couldn't you have done more if, and help this situation?
Well, my go-to feeling was anger, no doubt about it. I stayed in that position for quite some time. I even went to see a therapist who I don't think was a very good one looking back at her. Didn't stay with her because she said to me, if you're going to be angry and cuss in here, I don't want to see you. Okay, well, we don't all go into therapy with rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah,
Uh, that's just not why we're in therapy. So
exactly.
you've got to find that feeling that is your go-to and work with that. And thankfully, I found somebody else who helped transform all that anger I was carrying. It took time. It took a while.
Yeah.
6 months, maybe to a year, before I
Yeah.
could really let go of that anger. This is a personal journey everybody has to do. I'm not one for group therapy. I don't want to hear somebody else's story to compound on top of my story and carry that also. So
Yeah.
I found the one-on-one training to be most effective, and it just takes time. I cried a lot. I
Yeah.
would go in the shower and cry. I learned after a while I've got to compartmentalize when I do feel the anger and angst coming up. I
Hmm.
could only do that at certain times because I also worked. I needed to carry on the company.
Yes.
So I would come home and use that time at home to cry. I would maybe in the morning I would sit and read to feel better. And boy, I was into so many spiritual books at the time. The positive affirmations help a lot.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what my journey was for a while. I like peeling back the layers of who I am to see really what's underneath all this and still working with that same person today.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years later, but that's okay. We all have a lot of work to do on ourselves.
Oh, 100%.
I can tell you I'm not the same person I was years ago, so that's good.
Yeah.
And it just, my story just slowly changed over time. After I released that, that go-to anger
Yeah.
feeling. And I think it's important. Everybody needs to find out what that feeling is and then
Hmm.
try to find another one that
Yeah.
is more beneficial and feeling good for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I found worked for me.
I like that. So if you were to tell someone, if someone wasn't feeling that inner peace inside and they just went through, losing someone they love, what would be your advice to them on how they could start to move forward and start to heal themselves? Because it doesn't happen overnight. And just they might even look at you like you have six heads when you start giving them, advice or suggestions. But what would you say to somebody who's looking for that advice?
uh, I speak honestly. A lot of people like it, and then there are a lot that don't, because I'm
Right.
just going to tell you it sucks. Bottom
Hmm.
line, there is no emergency fast pass that you get to take to skip go and go. It's going to take a while. Surround yourself with friends who support you.
Hmm.
Find either the group or find a one-on-one time. I had a girlfriend who lost her husband 6 months after I did,
Wow.
and she liked the group setting for a while, and then she went into the one-on-one setting. I think everybody has to find what works for them.
Yeah.
And it's important to really connect with family and friends who are going to be there with you, because I learned quickly about a month and a half out, everybody kind of scatters to the wind who was there when they just passed.
Yeah.
Everybody goes back to their life. This seems
Hmm.
to be a common thread that everybody talks about. Where did everybody go? Now I'm
Yeah.
on my own. So you
Yeah.
sink down even further because you're into a single life that you didn't choose. You didn't want to be part of this club, yet here I am.
Right.
There are a ton of support groups through Facebook, through Instagram stories of people experiencing the same thing you are. If you're that kind of person, go in and buddy up because it
Right.
truly is valuable. I had a friend who lost her husband. This goes back years before I did.
Hmm.
And she would text me every morning something positive. I would pick up, like I said, the spiritual books and start reading something every day.
Yeah.
I got into Joel Osteen really big time. I really like pouring all that spirituality into my life as
Yeah.
much as I can.
Hmm.
And that's really kind of what saved me. It truly is. My sister was my go-to buddy for everything and anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Bonus for her, she got to travel for free. So, we went to New Orleans, we went down to Southern California, we went to New York. She was my plus one, and it was
Yeah.
great. It was, you really need somebody in your corner to stick by you as much as possible. You really do.
I hear that a lot from people. When they lose somebody and all of a sudden they're by themselves, they feel that loneliness. Everybody scatters away and they get angry. Like, why am I not hearing from this person? Why am I not hearing from this person? And then somebody would say to them, well, they have their own lives and,
Mhm.
they don't have all that, the time to always, pick up the phone or come visit and stuff like that. And a lot of people will not get that, or they'll be up, they get it, but they're upset by it because they're craving for that comfort. They're craving for that support. They're craving for just to get their mind off of the one they lost. Just the having that company and having that positivity around them, lightens their day. Even if someone comes over for a half an hour, an hour, can make a big difference in some person's life. But the problem is that people have their own lives. So then people, go about doing their own thing. And then a lot of people I heard, I feel so lonely. Nobody comes over, nobody calls me anymore. I don't, I just feel so alone.
That happens. That is absolutely the truth of what happens, which is why you need to extend the invitation out, contact them, text them. I think our life goes in cycles where people are constantly around you and then they're not. Then they're constantly around you and then they're not. I've seen that really in even just now, still being single, that the girlfriends I have, they go away for a while and then they come back. It's the
Yeah,
most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I don't know
I,
why, but I'm the kind of person who always will text or call somebody just to check in. Hi, what are you doing today? Why don't we plan a meal? So it's more on my side that I have to plan,
yeah,
not so much on the other side. And I learned that I can't get angry because they stopped calling me. It's
yeah,
it's a two-way street. It works both ways, and I need to take
right.
responsibility and step up and go, "Hey, what are you doing? Let's get together. Let's go out and do something."
Yes. No, that's true. That's true. And even Mel Robbins says that in her book, her new book, The Let Them Theory,
Hmm.
people, you need to take responsibility because she talks about that, how her friends all of a sudden were disappeared. But the problem was too is that she did not pick up the phone all the time and call them, and
Right.
we have to take responsibility sometimes and we have to reach out also.
That's right. And it's okay. It's not being a needy person. We as humans really need to connect. That's how we're wired.
Yeah.
I I miss those times in the 60s when I grew up.
Hmm.
Everybody was at your house or you were at somebody else's
Yeah.
house. The front doors were left open. The kids ran in the front yards. We
Yeah.
actually had green grass to run in. Here you've got pavement and gravel. You got to go to a park if you have kids.
Yeah.
It's really changed a lot, I think, and people are looking for that comfort zone of being surrounded by the people on your block.
Yeah.
This is the first house I've lived in Arizona where I actually know my neighbors.
Right.
That's 15 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It is.
And it's a great feeling. It
It is.
really is.
It is. And it's hard because a lot of times, when you move into different areas, like when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, it was just like you said, people kept their doors open, people were running in and out of the house. My friends had a key to the house. If they came over and they wanted to sleep over, they could just go in my bedroom and they plop on my bed and go to sleep. And I'd come home and they were there already sleeping. And my dad would make breakfast for all of us in the morning. And no one thought anything of it. And you don't see things like that anymore.
No,
It's just
everything's scheduled.
everything's scheduled. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is a shame. We need to to lighten up our lives and be able to really spend quality time with people again, not through social media, not through texting, but actual face to face. Pull up your chair
Yeah.
and watch the world go by.
Right.
Talk to the people who walk by your house. Learn to get
Yes.
to know people.
Hmm.
You'd be surprised what kind of stories you're going to hear about their lives.
Yeah.
And it's really good to share. You've got to let the energy out of the body in order to let the body heal also.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman who does grief yoga,
Hmm.
and I really believe that the energy does get stored in the body. And I took a weekend course with him and David Kessler. Oh my gosh, best thing I ever did because he's found a way to just let you release everything that's stored in the body. Oh,
Wow.
fantastic course. It really is.
I would love to do something like that because I think everybody has stored negative energy from our subconscious that just from childhood all the way to adulthood, certain things in people's lives that occurred that caused negative emotions or pain, and we store it. So, sometimes we just store it to move on. We store it, we strengthen ourselves up, and we move forward, but all that energy, all those pains that we experience, all everything, if we don't release it and we don't heal it, it's still in there. And that's why some people, you can get triggered. Someone can say a phrase or say a word, and then all of a sudden, your personality changes for a second. You might snap at someone for no reason, or your sweet voice might go to an angry voice because your subconscious, something about what that person said or how they behaved in that second, and it could be nothing related to the incident, just triggers you because of the subconscious emotions that we've occurred throughout our entire life that we didn't heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look up Paul Denniston, Denniston. He's the one who does the grief yoga. And
Hmm.
it's just fascinating to take his courses. It truly is. It's such a unique take on grief. It's
That
great.
sounds amazing. Now, did you feel that it changed your life dramatically when you started to do, how did you feel once you started to do grief yoga from when you first started to when you completed, maybe the sessions that he taught you?
I think it's a combination of everything changed me. It's not
Mhm.
just one person.
Yes,
It's all the teachers that I found that I worked with just really made a nice positive impact so I could reframe my life.
right.
And honestly, this is the first time I really enjoy my singlehood.
I love that.
I've come to really love myself. I love being single. The house is really quiet without my two dogs.
Mhm.
But I have pictures and they're bedding still where they were. So I
Yeah,
still feel that they're a part of me also.
right.
Um, so you've got to learn and grow and evolve, or your other choice is to stay stuck. So,
Right.
it's up to you. What do you want to do with your life?
Right.
And I
And
chose to live and I chose to enjoy it. And I chose to be in gratitude and enjoy and happiness versus the anger. Anger
right.
doesn't do anything for me. Absolutely nothing.
It really doesn't. It destroys us. It slowly, it just breaks down our immune system. It breaks down our walls. It opens us up to illnesses. It causes more problems, leads to depression. It leads to hurting others when we don't even mean to hurt others. And we lose control of our lives. Anger is evil. It destroys us if you really think about it. We do things towards ourselves that aren't good. We do things towards others that aren't good. We are just, people become very vindictive when they're angry, and they may not be that type of person, but they built up so much anger that they have become a different person through all the anger that they built up, because of whatever had happened.
That's right. And they mask it with drugs, with drinking, with abusive behavior.
Hmm.
So you need to find out what it is that's going on within. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he was saying how You may be standing in front of somebody and they start yelling at you. Well, it's not because of you. It's something that they've been building up inside, and you just happen to be the target. If at that moment maybe a car pulled up, he'd yell and scream at the car instead.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn to not take a lot of things personally also,
Yeah.
but we have to learn how to be in joy and gratitude. And especially now with what's going on in the world again,
Yeah.
they're talking about COVID times, not so much with COVID, but the shelves are going to be empty.
Mm.
It's going to cost more. It already costs more at the grocery store. It's going to go
Yeah.
up even more. Adidas just announced their shoes are going up in price. I
Yeah.
found some things missing on Amazon that I used to buy all the time. People are pulling out of Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, it, we're going into some challenging times.
We are. We are.
So I think it's really important you get a grasp of who you are and what's important in your life. To me, it's not important outside anymore.
Yeah.
It's more important to me what's inside and what's inside a human being.
Right.
Because if we're going into dark times, whew, there are a lot of people. This is a prime example of how so many people hold on to that idea that money makes them powerful. When
Yeah.
I was at my club a couple weeks ago, when the stock market first took that tumble,
Yeah.
I mean, this one guy who I'm very friendly with
Yeah.
couldn't be bothered to talk to me. I could see the anger in him. I could see
Mm.
the grief that he lost his
Yeah.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out later, a couple weeks later, that that's what he was going through. So
Yeah.
people are going to start grieving the fact that they may not have all the wealth that they're used to having and
Yeah.
feeling important that they
Mm-hmm.
perceive makes them important. So
Exactly.
this is a whole nother avenue that we're going to be experiencing. I don't have what I used to have. What's
Right.
wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
Now my depression has become even greater.
Right.
Am I a worthy human being? Do I value myself because I've lost the perception of having so much? Does it,
S-
you buy a new car and when it gets the first scratch or a dent or an accident,
Mm-hmm.
that joy and love has gone out the window.
Yep. Yep.
So does that car really bring you that much value and joy?
Yeah.
And how long does it last versus drawing it from within?
Right.
So it's interesting.
It
We're
is.
interesting creatures, no doubt about it.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I remember the cleaning lady came over one day and we were talking, and then she said to me, she goes, "You don't know how many people they perceive the $1 million home, they have the 80,000 or $100,000 car in their drive in their parking lot, and then you go into their house," she said, "and there's no furniture. There's blow up furniture." She said because they just want the perception. So people think that they have something. They could say, I live on this block. I drive this car. They see them in this car. Meanwhile, they don't have what they perceive. And then you have people, like you said, that lost millions. Some people lost half of what, they invested in the stocks and it's gone, and they're angry, they're upset, they're worried. But what I've seen lately is that the people who have extreme wealth that wanted more and wanted more and wanted
Mhm.
more and weren't happy with what they had when they had a lot to begin with, those are the people I'm finding that are now starting to really dive quickly and starting to go downhill quickly. But to be honest with you, I've never seen it change a person where it made them better. It always made them worse, and people always ended up in a really bad space. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's happiness and joy and having gratitude for what you have, what really makes you have a fulfilling life. When you have that happiness and joy, you feel the gratitude, you can give back, like we talked about in our last episode, to others.
Mhm.
Oh, that's fulfilling. That's a fulfilling life. When you keep taking and making and taking and making, what's the purpose? I still see people that they just live off of the influence. They just wanted the perception of what our society thinks is important, and that's all they care about. But it's not bringing them inner joy. They're not happy when the cameras are off, or when they're alone with the people who know them the best. They're very miserable inside. They're very angry. They're grieving for their own reasons.
That's right. Take a look at what happened to the stock market crash 29. How many people jumped out of windows?
Yes, yes, yes. Very true.
Did we learn from that? I don't know. How many suicides are we going to hear or not hear about because of
Hmm.
how much wealth they lost and they can't accept that fact and they're grieving over the fact that they think less than themselves. They don't want
Yeah.
to leave their family. There's a prime example of a guy in New York, I think it was Long Island or the Hamptons,
Hmm.
got his family into millions upon millions of debt and killed himself.
Yeah.
This was not last summer, but the summer before. It
Hmm.
happens all the time with these guys.
It does. People more than people realize.
So now you've got to deal with the wife and the children and what the grief they're going through and how it compounded their lives of not only losing whatever stature they thought they had, but now
Yeah.
the loss of a husband and a father.
Right.
That's a lot of grief to have to move through. It truly
Yes.
is. It's a lot of acceptance and understanding that you had nothing to do with it.
Yes. 100%. I spoke with someone from Denmark, and she belonged to a pharmaceutical company, and she was very high up in position. But she said the difference between the pharmaceutical companies in Denmark versus the pharmaceutical companies in America, they actually make drugs to help people. They don't make it to make, their goal is not to make money. She said even the CEO of the pharmaceutical company drives the economically, car versus, a $100,000 or $200,000 car. They're not, she goes, it's a very humble country. We don't look about money as our influence or our God. She said we look at money as, we just want to live a happy, fulfilling life. And that's how all the people in the country have that mentality. And she was so nice and so humble, and you could see the joy and happiness in her. And nothing was ever about the money. When she spoke, it was all about helping people, making, improving the people's lives.
Sure, wouldn't that be nice to have here?
It
And I
would.
that's exactly why they're voted the number one country to live in for happiness and a fuller, longer life because of that mentality.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how humbling that country was. I didn't realize that, that they were based with that mentality. And that's exactly what I said to myself. Wow, if we could have a country that, thought like that and acted like that and exemplified those behaviors and characteristics, wow, what our country could be like, what it could be like, the good we can really produce to help the people around us.
Right. Instead of price gouging and raising your insulin prices 400% just because you want to see a profit turned. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a shame that companies are run with the mentality of taking over the little guy's life with their finances so they can have a good bottom line. For
yeah,
who? For who, honestly? Who wins?
exactly. The winners are always only the people on the top, nobody else. And
Are they really winners? Are
no, no,
they?
they're not really winners. Financially, they have plenty of money. But what from our conversation and what the truth is, no, they're not really winners. No,
Right.
no.
All they care about is the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. What are some of the things that you found? Like you did a lot of things to get where you are today to learn how to how to cope with grief. Now, did you find one was more powerful than the other? Because everybody's different. Everyone's gonna have their own thing that works. But when you have to name some of the things that you did that really impacted your life when it came to inner peace, what would you say some of the things that you would suggest to others? I know I asked you something similar in the beginning, but what do you think, people should like focus on doing? Like, should they focus on journaling? Should they focus on meditation, yoga, grief? These are all things, maybe group therapy, not, or if that works for them, if not, maybe one-on-one therapy. Is there anything else that you think has a huge impact on people's lives when they're trying to cope with, get that inner peace back into their life?
I think you've named them all. I'm trying to run that list through my head and see, what else did we miss? It's the affirmations also are real
Yes.
important. Put sticky notes everywhere for yourself.
Hmm.
I've had one sticky note stuck to my computer now for 7 years.
Wow. I love it though. It's true. You have something positive in front of you. You look at it, it does change your mindset. It does change the way you feel. Like that when you first wake up, if you could say something positive to yourself, or you see a sticky note that has something really powerful and positive, it puts your frame of mind in a different place. It really does. It really does.
Oh, big time. Absolutely, it does. I might rather wake up and see something positive than wake up and see something negative with the news that just happened. That
Exactly.
really, how you wake up in the day really sets the tone of how your day is going to go. And I've
Yes.
stopped picking up my phone to start reading emails as soon as, woo, I'm up, let's read the emails.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I take care of myself that first hour. I've also cut back my meetings. I told my head person in the support side of the company, I said, no
Yeah.
more 8 o'clock meetings. I need that time for myself. Let's start meetings at 9 o'clock. I got to breathe in the morning. I
Yeah.
can't just constantly go, go, go. It's such a detriment to your health and your mental health.
Yes. So true. So true. Now, if you had to take today's conversation and you wanted to emphasize on it, some important factors, what are some of the things you'd like to emphasize about today's conversation?
I'd say it's okay to get help.
Mhm.
Don't think it's not okay. Don't think you're a weakling, you're not strong enough, you can't do this. It's important to get help. There's so many valuable resources out there on your for helping your mental health, for helping you through grief, through helping you through just your life in general. It's
Yeah,
important.
it
It's
is.
okay to get the help. It's okay to ask for it.
Yeah.
We're built where we think people have to come to us. We're
Yes.
not mind readers. We need to have adult conversations and we need to be able to stand up and say, I need help. Can you please help me? It's no
Yes.
different than an AA group where
Right.
they know the first step is you got to turn it over. There's a higher power than you.
Hmm.
If you can do that and you can accept the fact that you've got a problem, that's 95% of the battle right there.
Oh, well said. Yes, 100%. Because there are so many people out there that are embarrassed to ask for help. They were grown up to, they were raised and you don't ask for help, you just swallow it and you move on and they
Right.
have a mentality. But it is so important to ask for help. And by asking for help, it's amazing what rewards come out of it and how many people are willing to come out and help you. And it's just a simple word. Can you help me? I need help. And those words go a long way. They really
Yep.
do.
Absolutely.
Now, if people had to contact you, where could they find you if they needed to, contact you, maybe ask you a question or anything?
If they go to our company website, we have a contact us page.
Hmm.
And then they can reach me through there. And the website is Sotopelli, Sottopelle therapy.com, and go to the contact page. Be happy to talk with anyone.
And can you just tell us about your country, your company very briefly so everybody knows who you are and what you do?
My late husband and I started a hormone company using pellet therapy, little small little grains of rice, pure estrogen and testosterone that are placed uh, in the hip area under the skin. The name Sotapelli means under the skin in Italian, and absolutely gave me back my life. It really did. So we're
Yeah,
just out there helping as many people as we can.
I love it. Well, this was wonderful, Carol Ann. Like always, you shed light to a lot of areas where people don't talk about, but they need so much help in these areas. And I just want to thank you for having the courage, the resilience to come out and to talk about your own personal journey with grief and how you've learned, to cope with it and how you're still learning because like we mentioned earlier, we never stop learning. We every day we learn, we figure out new things and we move forward. And thank you so much for teaching people and giving people ideas on how to cope with grief, how to move forward in life, and how to get back the life they once had and not let grief put a hold on their happiness. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Well, you have a great day.
You too.